No, you were the one crying. As I said the other day, we were just hours away from Sonny and Spurs releasing some incredibly emotive social media content, and yesterday evening, boy, did we get it. With Son Heung-Min in tears during separate videos to his teammates and the fans. Will we ever see a player who just gets it to the same level as Sonny? I severely doubt it. What a player. What a man. Meanwhile, the Spurs fan base's frustration with the speed or lack thereof of Tottenham's transfer work in this window grows as the clubs around us continue to get their men, Newcastle withstanding, and Spurs just seem to be bouncing around from one failed bid to the next. I'll bring you the latest on who Spurs are interested in according to the transfer don Fabrizio Romano. All that and my preview to today's Bayern Munich friendly on today's episode of Daily Tottenham Transfer News. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Do give the video a like, press subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and do keep an eye out, guys, because at 5:25 p.m. this afternoon, I'll be doing a live watch along on this channel for the Bayern Munich friendly. So come and join me, get involved in the chat, and we can watch the game together. But we have to start with Sonny, don't we? It was officially revealed late yesterday afternoon that Sonny has signed for LAFC. And yeah, like as I mentioned, I was expecting the videos coming out from Sonny and Spurs to be emotional, but maybe not quite as emotional as they were. Incredible outpouring of, real-time almost grief from Son Heung-Min as he released these video messages to both the fans and separately to his teammates, just showing how much he adored the people that he played alongside and, of course, the people who paid his wages, those being the fans. How often do you actually see a footballer cry openly? Paul Gascoigne, I can think of on the pitch against West Germany in the World Cup semi-final, Italia 90. And there's a famous story about Nani crying on the pitch when he got fouled in a Liverpool versus Manchester United game. But you just don't see it that often. Players are incredibly avoidant when it comes to letting their emotions run free. And of course they are, because they grow up in a kind of industry where to show weakness is frowned upon. Things are getting better on that front when it comes to football. But I really think what Sonny did yesterday in terms of, and actually at the Newcastle friendly at the weekend where he cried on the bench when he was brought off. But I really think it's a huge positive for footballers. And I hope a lot of them are watching that and showing that actually you can be an elite player. You can be at the very top level and show your emotions, not just when you're winning things either, but also when, big moments are happening in your life. I think it's really important for younger kids watching that to show or to see, big stars showing their vulnerability. And huge props to Sonny. And we're going to miss him, not just on the pitch, but his leadership and, like I said, just him as a role model to both the players and the fans. I mean, just as a comparison, and I still love Harry Kane. I'm not one of those fans who has, totally forgotten about him. And of course, we will be seeing him against Spurs today. Will he score his first ever goal against Spurs? That'll be quite interesting. But when he left Tottenham Hotspur, it was basically just a video filmed, almost like a selfie video, just as he was about to board his private jet. I think it was from like a golf course or maybe just outside the airport or something, and it was very quick and not very full of feeling. And he came up through the academy, so that really showed how he felt, I think, resentful towards the club, probably towards Daniel Levy, mostly for him not allowing him to leave to Manchester City when he wanted to, and he didn't put nearly the time or the effort into his goodbye. I mean, one thing you can say, just playing devil's advocate for Kane, is he didn't know for sure whether that deal was going to go through. There was a lot of jiggery-pokery going on in that final week of the window before Harry Kane got his move to Bayern Munich. Whereas obviously there was a big run-up. Sonny had let the club know he wanted to leave at the beginning of the summer, and the club respected that. So that's just playing devil's advocate. But I think Kane could have probably played it a bit smarter, and resentment, I'm sure, did play a fair part in that. But Sonny will forever be revered as a club legend at Tottenham Hotspur. And if a statue was ever going to be erected outside our magnificent ground, then Bill Nicholson, Son Heung-Min would definitely be up there in the list of people who should be in that statue. I'll read out Sonny's letter to the fans, showing that He's not just a brilliant player on the pitch, also a little bit of a poet. He said, "Dear Spurs fans, you are always in my pictures. Every time I celebrate, I make a memory of you." Of course, talking about his camera celebration. He says, "It's our moment. I make the frame so I don't forget. You welcomed me to North London. You watched me grow. Beautiful moments, the Golden Boot, the Puskas Award. You were there. When I suffered, you were still there. You stayed with me and I stayed with you. I never imagined captaining this team, but I always dreamed that I would win something for you. We won the Europa League and you all deserve it. Thank you for these years. Keep every picture. You're always in the frame. Thank you so much. Love, Sonny." I mean, I can't think of a single occasion that a footballer has left with this much thought and appreciation for the fans that he played in front of. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Can you think of a single other footballer for any club who has left in this kind of way? I mean, I guess just off the top of my head, players like kind of Mark Noble, one-man servants to the club when he played for West Ham. Obviously, Ledley King got his testimonial after he was a one-club man for Spurs, but it's just so rare in this day and age, and particularly for a player who's not a one-club man, who hasn't come up through the academy like Sonny, who joined, of course, from Bayer Leverkusen 10 years ago. Just showing what an incredible reference point Sonny is for elite players being role models to children growing up. And Sonny knows that. I think he's one of the few players who really revels in that. As Alistair Gold, I think, said, no, actually, it was Ange Postecoglou, said in an interview the other day, what we have to remember about Sonny is he's lived his life and his career in a goldfish bowl. He's the most famous footballer in South Korea, probably in Asia. He's won the Asian Footballer of the Year like many times. And that's difficult. But he's incredibly single-minded in his desire to just be a totally positive influence on his fans, not just Tottenham fans, but his fans all around the world. And I cannot tell you how difficult that is in the modern age of social media and of temptation and money that Sonny has. To just be as grounded as he is and as disciplined and keeping his feet on the floor. And as I mentioned in yesterday's videos, I'm absolutely delighted for him that he's getting to go to LA, a city that he clearly chose to go and live in, somewhere where he was able to relax a little bit more and probably have a bit more of a social life. He deserves it. No one deserves it more than Sonny. And if I'm Tottenham Hotspur, I bring him back as often as I can to the stadium just to keep the buzz up at Tottenham in terms of, fans loving to see one of their own come back. Daniel Levy said this in his exit note. Again, a bit of a break from tradition. Exit notes like this do not tend to come from the chairman when players are leaving the club. He said, "Sonny is one of the greatest players to ever wear the famous lily white shirt, and he has been a joy to watch over the past decade. Not only is he a wonderfully gifted footballer, but he's also an incredible human being who has touched hearts and inspired people throughout the club and all over the world. Sonny has given so much to this club, both on and off the pitch, and for that we are forever grateful. We wish him all the best for the future, and he will always be welcome back at the club as a beloved and cherished member of our Spurs family." I think they're good words from Daniel Levy. Obviously, he gets a lot of stick as a chairman, especially at the moment with the transfer window not going how Spurs fans would like. But he understands the enormity of what Son Heung-Min has done for this club over 10 years. Bear in mind, not many footballers get 10 years of peak level in their career, and Sonny has given those 10 years, his best years, to Tottenham Hotspur. And for that, I personally can say I'm forever grateful, and you will never be forgotten, Sonny. Okay, on to some of the latest transfer news. Spurs are awaiting to see PSG's stance on Ilya Zabani from Bournemouth. Spurs apparently ready to pay the 70 million fee that Bournemouth demand, and will go for him if PSG fail to complete the deal. I read yesterday that Zabani is unsure why the PSG deal hasn't gone through. PSG have clearly been interested in him all window, and obviously Bournemouth have sold a number of their other best players, Dean Howson, for instance, from the centre-back line, as well as Milos Kerkez to Liverpool. And Zabani wants to go to PSG. But if that doesn't happen, Spurs are waiting in the wings. And this kind of tallies with where I think Tottenham are in this transfer window, as depressing as it is, just waiting for other clubs to decide whether to pull the trigger on players they want or not, and then we'll kind of try and sniff around on the back end. I think it's probably the similar with Eberechi Eze. waiting to see if Arsenal actually go for him, and if not, maybe we'll go for him there. But it is indeed, incredibly frustrating just watching Spurs going into a European Super Cup final in less than 7 days' time, having made only one senior signing, that being Mohamed Kudus, who is a good signing. Very excited to see him play today against Bayern Munich. But I actually, I am frustrated, but I don't think it's all Daniel Levy's fault. I really don't. I think if you look at what's happening with Newcastle, they cannot get players over the line either. And now with their latest attempts, Manchester United have beaten them for Sesko. And I think Newcastle were able to offer Sesko more wages, but it just shows it is not a linear thing, the transfer window. You are fighting against so many other clubs trying to get the same people. And Tottenham and Newcastle, who are, let's face it, in and around that top 6 traditionally now. But Spurs, even though they're in the Champions League, 17th last year, not as easy a sell as maybe it was a number of years ago. Well, even during the Ange Postecoglou days, maybe. More reports from Marca in Spain that intermediaries working on behalf of Tottenham have made an offer to Real Madrid for Rodrigo. However, nothing less than 70 million euros would be considered by the Spanish club. I don't even know why Tottenham would think about offering less than 70 million euros for a player of Rodrigo's undoubted talent and potential and experience, frankly. So, maybe that's another reason why Spurs are struggling. Daniel Levy going in everywhere, lowballing as per usual. Fabrizio Romano says there have been no advanced negotiations, but there was a call in recent days from Tottenham to understand the situation over Jack Grealish. This comes because Everton are trying hard to get Grealish on loan. However, Manchester City have said that any loan deal for Grealish will only happen if the club loaning him cover 100% of his wages, and he is on £300,000 a week. Now, this, I think, is a perfect example of the kind of transfer that at this stage, Man City are playing hardball on. But as the window gets closer to closing in about 24 odd days, they will have to do a deal where they agree to pay some of Grealish's wages. I'll tell you why. Because Grealish will not want to take a pay cut. I think it's more likely that Grealish will choose to stay at Man City and say, okay, well, I'm going to fight for my place. Whereas Man City clearly want to get him off the books. They don't think he has a future at the club. And similarly to what happened when Spurs got Emmanuel Adebayor all those years ago from Manchester City, but it was at the start of Man City's ownership by Abu Dhabi. We got Adebayor with City paying about half of his wages. I think they were paying about £100,000 a week for Adebayor to play at Spurs. And that, I think, is why Everton and Spurs will wait until the end of this window, see where they're at, and then see what Manchester City are able to do in terms of kind of supplementing that deal by paying half, if not a little less than half of his wages. I could see Spurs going potentially to 175 grand a week, 200 grand a week for Jack Grealish, but there's no way they're going to pay 300 grand for a week for him on loan or as a permanent transfer. And I don't think Grealish would accept the kind of pay cut to go on a permanent transfer to either Everton or Spurs. Let me know what you think, but that's where I see it. Do I want Grealish at Tottenham? I've been pretty consistent. I like Grealish as a player, don't get me wrong. And if Thomas Frank speaks to him and feels like he can motivate him, then sure. But I wonder if Grealish really, kind of back end of his 20s, of nearly 30 years old, if not already, whether he will be motivated and have the desire to come to Tottenham and play. But I would love to be proven wrong. Liverpool have apparently joined Tottenham in the race to sign Juventus midfielder Douglas Luiz. He's another one that Everton have been interested in. The former Aston Villa player leaving Juventus this summer. He's undoubtedly got talent, but now that we've brought João Paulinho, I'd be surprised if we brought him in as well. According to the Times, Spurs are not actively pursuing Harvey Elliott after holding initial talks over a possible deal. Looks like he's going to be joining RB Leipzig as a replacement for Xavi Simons, who is still looking to get a move to Chelsea. Some reports that Spurs have been trying to hijack that move for Xavi Simons. But let's face it, if Chelsea are in for a player these days, the player goes there because they know where the wages are coming and they don't care whether they're going to be up against 67 other forwards for a place in the first team. Bilal El Khanous of Leicester is an attacking midfield option being monitored by Tottenham. A lot of monitoring going on, Spurs. I would love to hear, and hopefully maybe we will after the Bayern Munich game, from Thomas Frank about how he feels about only having one player in before the start of the season. He may be very positive about it and say, look, I needed to get a proper look at all the players in training. Well, I would argue now after a month, he probably has, and I'm sure he knows who he wants and who he doesn't. And look, maybe it's that once again we're waiting for more outgoings. We've got the nearly 25 million pounds in for Son Heung-Min. I think they're looking for money for Bissouma. And I think they probably would look to replace Richarlison if they got money from Saudi Arabia for him. But I don't think Richarlison is going to want to move to Saudi Arabia at this stage. Clubs, this is according to Ali Gold. Clubs interested in having an option to buy Luka Vuskovic at the end of any loan deal this season have been told in no uncertain terms by Spurs that only offers for a straight loan will be accepted by Tottenham. Alfie Devine is drawing lots of interest from the Championship and the Eredivisie in terms of a loan. That's also according to Ali Gold. Portsmouth have agreed a loan deal for Yang Min-hyuk. That is expected to go through today. The South Korean winger obviously went on loan for the second half of last season to QPR. Spurs don't feel like he's ready to fight for a first-team place, so it'll be interesting to see how he does at Portsmouth. George Abbott is stepping up to League One and has signed on loan for Wycombe after he had a great campaign for Notts County last season in League Two. And according to Ali Gold this morning, the plan for Kota Takai is for once he gets over his injury, for him to stay with the first team after recovery. It's only if Radu Dragusin recovers from his ACL before the end of the transfer window that the club might consider loaning out Takai. So clearly Takai has been chosen above Luka Vuskovic to stay with the first team this season. Guillermo Vicario was asked about his Champions League hopes this season. He said, last year in the league, things did not go as we wanted. We need to improve, establish ourselves amongst the big teams again. The Champions League will be tough, but we're ready. For many, it will be the first time, including myself. We want to be a thorn in everyone's side. Football is unpredictable, and we want to be there until the end. I have to say, I really like that phrase, that analogy, a thorn in people's side. I think that shows a little bit that Tottenham know where they are this season, a little bit more like the underdogs rather than expectation. And that's no surprise considering we finished 17th last season. And I think Thomas Frank can really play on that. And I think as fans, we need to be patient in that in a lot of games, we're going to have to play on the transition, on the counter-attack, let teams have the ball a little bit more than we are used to. We clearly know after last season that we can score a lot of goals when we're trying to just play possession football all the time, but we just conceded far too many. So this season, I'm afraid we're going to have to concede possession a little bit more, play on the transition. And what will be key, I think, to Tottenham's season is if in today's friendly against Bayern Munich and next week's Super Cup and going into the Burnley game, we need to score some early goals to show ourselves that whilst being defensively more pragmatic, harder to beat, more narrow, we can still score enough goals to win games. All right, guys, before I go into my preview for the Bayern friendly this afternoon, once again, please do give this video a like. Press subscribe if you're not already a subscriber for daily Tottenham Hotspur transfer news during this window and all the news and views from White Hart Lane. And also in the description box is a link to the nominations for the Football Content Awards. If you like my content, please do go there and give me a nomination for one of the two categories that I recommend in the description box below. Okay, in terms of the Bayern Munich game today, we lost twice to Bayern Munich in friendlies last summer. João Palhinha is travelling with the squad for the game. I'd be very surprised if he started because obviously he's only been with the club for, less than a week. They will have had a chance to look at him in training, but really it will have been about seeing how ready he is for the rough and tumble of 90 minutes of football. The winner of today's friendly will lift the Telecom Cup. So as unlikely as it may sound, a chance for a third piece of silverware in 3 or 4 months. Bayern Munich, in terms of what they've been up to, obviously they were in the Club World Cup during the summer. They were knocked out by Paris Saint-Germain. And then they've just come back to pre-season. They had their first friendly on Saturday, in which they beat Lyon 2-1 with a brace from Michael Olise. What a player Olise is, by the way. And alongside Luis Diaz, who's just signed for Bayern Munich, and of course Harry Kane, 3 players who are used to playing Spurs in the Premier League. I think Diaz is a good signing for them. Remember, Spurs were in for Diaz before he went to Liverpool. And clearly Bayern Munich, as ever, looking to have incredibly powerful and pacey wide men to get balls into Kane's feet. Kane, Tell and Palhinha will all be playing against their former sides. In terms of injuries for Bayern Munich, Musiala and Alphonso Davies are long-term injuries. Spurs injury doubts, Solanke and Udogie. There doesn't seem to have been a press conference before this game, and I didn't see Udogie or Solanke in the social media clip of the Spurs players getting on the plane yesterday. So looking forward to finding out really a little bit more about them, because with the Super Cup less than a week away, we need Solanke at the very least to be available for that because without him, I think we do struggle. And Thomas Frank likes to play more out balls down the channels and into kind of the head and chest of the forward man. And realistically, Matthias Tell isn't strong enough to deal with that. So I do think Richarlison is more likely to probably start this afternoon. You would hope that Tottenham will have the edge over Bayern Munich fitness-wise, as we've been in pre-season for over a month now, and Bayern Munich have only just come back. But for me, this game is about just getting through it with no new injuries and showing, again, a difficulty to be broken down and see if we can hit them on the transition and make some chances for ourselves. My predicted team is as follows. Vicario, Porro, you've got to assume Spence will play on the left again. Did so well against Bukayo Saka against Arsenal in the tour. Van der Ven and Romero. And then I've gone for Bentancur, Sarr, and Bergvall as the three in quite a kind of solid, sturdy midfield. And then Tell on the left, Kudus on the right, and Richarlison in the 9. That is my predicted team, but let me know what you think the team will be for the friendly. Once again, guys, I will be doing a watch-along on this channel starting at 5:25 this afternoon. I'll be putting that up in the next hour or so, if not before. So check that out. Press the notification tag on all my content, and you'll see when that watch-along is going to start, 5:25 p.m. Come and join me. Get in the chat. Let's watch the Bayern game together. Hope for a good result, good performance, and enjoy the rest of your Thursdays, guys. Come on, you Spurs.